Welcome. I just thought today would be a really lovely opportunity to give you a little bit of information about what NLP actually is, a bit of an intro. I'm going to be sharing a little bit about the power of language, a little bit about my story with Scanxiety and how I overcame that. And I'm going to share with you an NLP tool to instantly change how you feel. So yeah, I'm Tasha Thor-Straten. I'm a master practitioner. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about what NLP is in a moment. In my normal everyday job, I help teams and individuals create and manage change as a kind of really simple way of describing it. And I'm also a wellbeing coach and consultant. So yeah, back in January 2017, I just moved in with my partner. And hang on a minute, I'm just going to come off screen share so you can see my face. I just moved in with my partner. I've got 2 children. He's got 3 children, and everything was perfect. We'd literally been together for 2 months, and I wasn't unwell. I was fit and healthy. I was the kind of person that used to go to the gym. I ate broccoli for breakfast, you know, a very diverse palate. Grew up in North London, so all my friends were Greek and Turkish, so I really looked after myself nutritionally. And I believe that I kind of had quite a stress-free life. But anyway, I'd had a bit of, you know, some blood in my stools over the last few months, but really out of sheer embarrassment, I just couldn't even pluck up the courage to mention it to the doctor. So I actually went to the GP twice and just talked about something completely different. But in the end, it just got too bad. So really between Christmas and New Year 2016, it just got to the point where I just couldn't ignore it anymore. So I went to the docs and I said, look, you know, this is happening. And I just happened to mention that my mum's got ulcerative colitis. And based on that, he said, oh, that's fine. Actually, as a precaution, we'll send you for a scan. And obviously part of that, when I had my colonoscopy, they found a massive tumour. And then I got the results, and I'll show you the letter that I received just here. And it literally said, blah, 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 blah. I've explained to her that if there is evidence of both liver and lung metastases, that is unlikely that we'll be able to offer her any chance of a cure for her condition, and we'll be concentrating on slowing down the progression of the disease palliation with chemotherapy. So it was a massive shock, basically. And I literally had 2 weeks to plan my funeral, tell the children what was going on, and really have some very, very tricky conversations. So I wondered if you'd ever kind of experienced these kind of things in your daily life. Do you have great well-being plans, you know, for all these things that you want to do with creating balance and all that kind of stuff, but all of a sudden it gets to the end of the day and you think, oh no, it hasn't happened, time just disappears? And maybe do you know people who just can absolutely cope with anything that life presents with them? And have you ever had those moments when your positive thoughts and self-talk just goes AWOL? I wonder if you've ever had those moments. Bear with me, I'll just go on to the next part of the screen. So the reasons why I believe it's so important that people understand really how their brain works is that how we think and how we act really, I believe, and obviously NLP is what NLP is all about, it influences the outcome of all situations, life-changing or not. So I think it's, you know, quite a super cool skill to be able to have. So as part of all the sessions that I do, and especially something like this, because it's part of well-being, I think it's really quite nice to maybe start with a little bit of gratitude practice. And some of you might be groaning and thinking, oh, you know, I do this all the time, or I'm not used to it. But if you feel comfortable to, you know, and the reasons behind it is really because practicing gratitude scientifically is proven to change how we think and improves our well-being. You know, it's not me just saying that. They have done various studies on the brain of people studying, you know, doing gratitude practice every day, either out loud or writing it down in a journal. And the differences in the brain shifts are immense. It improves resilience, but it does take practice. So if you feel comfortable to, just take a couple of moments to think of maybe 2 or 3 reasons why you feel grateful for Red Trouser Day. So I'll kick off. For me, it's all about having these opportunities to be in your kind of audience, it gives me the confidence to really share my story and to share it with lots more people so that I can spread awareness. And I'm grateful also for Giovanna's nutrition video, and I learned so much for that. So just take a couple of moments to think of maybe 2 or 3 reasons why you're grateful for Red Trials a Day. Okay.
Do you want us to share them?
If you'd like, Paul, yeah, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for the sense of fun in the community, really. I mean, it's, when you're going through tough times, and those of us that are still getting regular scans, it's friendship and support that's there, but actually it's having the fun for me, which was always part of what I wanted to create in the first place, really, that sort of sense of fun that eases the tension, I guess, and the stress. So
it's lovely. Really, really lovely. Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I'll move on. So with regards to NLP, so what is NLP? NLP, the N stands for neuro, so it's literally everything to do with how we see, hear, feel and touch, everything to do with our neurons. Linguistic refers to language, so it's how I'm speaking to you now, it's the written word, but it also relates to all that lovely non-verbal communication. And really, every part of the message that we receive, the studies show it's like 70 to 93% of that message comes from non-verbal communication. So it's tone, eye contact, pace, all those kind of things that don't happen obviously with language. And programming really is related to understanding how all those memories and behaviours and actions have been imprinted into us since birth that then make us act a certain way. So really it's the patterns of behaviour and emotions. So when NLP comes together, it really is a study of human behaviour, but it can be described in so many different ways. It's described as a collection of techniques which help people create better working and personal relationships. My favourite one is it's described as a user's manual for the mind, because studying NLP gives us insights into how our thinking patterns can affect every aspect of our lives. So think of it a bit like this. We're all boats in the ocean, and we've all got some place to get to, and we could just bob along and get there. But actually, once we learn how to use the wind to our favour to balance the load. Paul, all the sailing tech terms, so you can tell that I'm probably not. To learn the ropes, to trim the sails, to tack successfully, we learn how to get to our destination quicker and learn how to navigate the rough seas and storms. So I just wanted to really make it clear that NLP is not hypnotherapy. I'm not hypnotizing you by doing this. It's a common misconception. It's not psychotherapy, and it's definitely not counselling. It is something a little bit different. So coming on to the next thing I thought would be quite helpful to do is to really share one of the tools that we use in NLP, which is called the Mercedes model. And the only reason it's called the Mercedes model is because it looks like the Mercedes badge. And this model you can actually use with anything that you want to feel better around. So obviously you can look at the recording of this and then think, oh, actually that might be quite helpful to change that, or to help you feel differently and better about something else. So what happens is that once you change one element, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about how we can change each element in a moment. Once you change one element, how you will change will improve instantly. If you can change more than one element, so language and physiology at the same time, the change will happen even quicker. But if you can change all elements of the Mercedes model, change happens really, really fast. So it's fantastic, basically, and I'll explain a little bit more about it right now. So let's look at language and the power of language. So obviously, when it comes to cancer, there's lots and lots of military terms, aren't there? It's all about battling it, fighting it, losing the fight, being a survivor, those kind of things, being brave and being strong. And some of the things that you might have heard yourself saying, or other people saying, things like, are you living with cancer, working with cancer, the big C? And the reason why all these things are so important is because how you're thinking about it reflects your behaviour. So I'll go on to that in a moment. So if you think about it, really, when I first got diagnosed, I was, very much in the the mindset that I needed to bite it, no, not bite it, I needed to fight it, I needed to beat it. But then this is even before I knew much about NLP. I thought, well, this is my body and I don't really want to fight it because this is me and I'm part of a holistic being. So I instantly changed it to working with it because I thought that was more helpful. And obviously when I did my training, I now understand a little bit more about it, and I'll go into that in a moment. And also for me, I was really beating myself up because I'd looked after myself and I hadn't really done anything excessive. I kept asking that question, what have I done to cause this? What am I going to be doing again that might make it come back? So the way that I changed my language and self-talk was I changed that to my cells are confused, because I instantly took the blame and the pressure off myself and let me kind of live with a bit more certainty every day. So can you see how people talk about language and how you might be talking about it can actually affect what happens as a result of it? So this just illustrates what I was saying just now. So I changed, I've got to fight this, to working with cancer. And also one of the things that I started to say to myself right at the beginning when I got diagnosis is that I created it. Well, I got stressed maybe. I ate too many sausages. I ate too many pieces of bacon. I drank too much beer. In my mind, I'd created it, but that was really helpful because also in my mind, I thought, well, I can uncreate it, which isn't actually how I feel now, because I don't want to be creating it again, but it also gave me the opportunity to reframe it and to make it work for me. And the power of language also at the beginning, why did it happen to me? I changed that, like I said before, to my cells are confused. And when it comes to Scanxiety, my thought process and my initial self-talk was, oh, what if I find something? But then I changed that to, well, I'll just be able to deal with whatever news they present me with. So can you see how those simple shifts just took the pressure off what I was telling myself and the self-talk, which then allowed me to create space really to have a better outcome? It absolutely makes a massive difference. And this all relates obviously to neurology, and there's two neuroscientists in America called Mark what's his surname? Mark Waldman and Andrew Newman, and they've written a book. It's all about, they share how words can literally change the brain. And their scientific studies show that negative words, they actually release stress, they say, and anxiety-inducing hormones. Their book is called Words Can Change Your Brain. And they write, this is their quote, "A single word has the power to influence the expression of genes that regulate physical and emotional stress." So positive words such as peace and love can alter the expression of genes. And what they actually do is they strengthen the areas in our frontal lobes and promote the brain's cognitive functioning, which is pretty cool, isn't it? They propel the motivational centers of the brain into action and build resiliency. So, thinking positively, all that kind of stuff, it's not just about living life through rose-tinted glasses. It actually has a very beneficial effect on the brain and your cells as a result. They then go on to say, whereas angry words send alarm messages through the brain and they partially shut down the logic and reasoning centers located in the frontal lobes, which is probably not what you really want to happen. So if you want to start feeling better, we can actually, we can change our thoughts and our language, which will then change our behavior and our actions, and obviously the outcome of our daily experiences. So when it comes to having tricky conversations, this is actually something I picked up when I was doing some volunteering with Macmillan, is if you think that you are going to have a tricky or a difficult conversation, and this is what we generally say a lot, isn't it? Oh, it's going to be a really tricky conversation. Guess what? What you will say will represent tricky and difficult because your mind is looking for it subconsciously. And I'll come into why that is in a moment when I talk about the RAS. And when you're saying difficult, again, it'll be looking for things that are difficult. So you might start fluffing your words up, or your tone might be really quick, that kind of thing. And it generally, you're looking for it to be tricky and difficult. So therefore the outcome will probably be a little bit tricky and difficult. But the first thing you can do, and this is a really simple thing, is to change the word tricky to courageous. And it might seem just a really simple thing to change, but I can assure you that as soon as you start telling yourself that you're going to have a courageous or brave conversation, even, you know, I'm just saying it now, but my chest feels upright, my shoulders are down. I'm smiling about having a courageous and brave conversation rather than a tricky or difficult conversation. So that is the #1 language rule when it comes to having a courageous and brave conversation. That can be related to anything to do with, obviously, treatment, cancer, everyday conversation. So yeah, I'd love to learn, I'd love to understand how that, you know, makes some changes for you. So, you know, let's connect and you can share your stories with me, because everybody who I've taught that to has experienced such a different outcome. And like Paul and I were saying at the beginning of the session, when he had the conversation with, I can't remember her name, about Scanxiety, you know, the fact that he actually said to her, look, these are the things I really don't like, and these are the things I would really like to change. Off the back of that, big massive changes happened in the system to allow other people to say it, because they didn't know what people didn't like. So when you, as soon as you start saying brave or courageous, it gives you the opportunity just to say it in a different way and just to come out with it. So no, that's an absolute, you know, really, really good thing to start doing. So also beliefs are really important as well when it comes to language, because obviously when we think it's in language, that's represented in our beliefs. So do you believe it's improper to share poo-related talk? You know, there are no rights or wrongs with this, by the way. Do you think that stress is a contributing factor in cancer cases? Do you think that a balanced lifestyle helps people recover from cancer? Do you think oncologists know everything about you and cancer? Is homeopathy, for example, you know, another kind of treatment? Is it all about sugar-coated placebo pills? Or is cutting out sugar a healthy way to treat cancer? Does bacon and beer cause imbalance in the gut? And do you believe that you can heal yourself? And the reason that beliefs are so important is that the chances are there's a lot of beliefs that aren't your own. You've probably picked them up from other people around you, the people who brought you up, the people who you're surrounded with at home, maybe your work colleagues, friends. And that's fine if they're working for you. But the chances are there are some beliefs that you can quite easily uninstall, get rid of them. If they're not working for you, you can actually choose some more helpful beliefs so that you can live a more harmonious and, you know, better lifestyle, basically. So with those beliefs, start questioning them and thinking, are they my own? Are they limiting my thoughts? Are they limiting my actions? And are they limiting my happiness? And if they are, then it's definitely time to get rid of them. So the next part of the Mercedes model I'm going to cover now is all around your focus. And your focus, there's a part of your brain that's basically like a pencil shape. And that is the part of the brain that acts as a filter, because guess what? We have, funnily enough, 2.4 million pieces of information that are coming into us at any given moment. Well, obviously we would implode if we were to take all of that in, and we wouldn't be able to function very well. So the RAS, looking at the diagram now, is the part of the brain that acts as a filter, and that actually filters 5 to 9 pieces of information out. Now, a really simple way I describe it, the way this works, is that when I first started driving a long, long time ago, I had a red Ford Fiesta. And I thought I was going to be the only one on the road with a red Ford Fiesta. But of course, when I got one, there were loads, there were tons of them, and I wasn't the only one. And then, you know, a few years after that, I was trying for a baby and it took a while. And all I was seeing on the high street were pregnant women. So that's what the RAS does. It focuses and brings more of what you're focusing on into your psyche subconsciously. So once we know that it exists and what it does, we can actually use it to our advantage to make it focus on the things that are helpful for us. So, and it works in a very specific way. You have to ask it for the things that you want rather than what you don't want. So it's like that classic example of me saying to you right now, right, whatever you do, do not think of pink elephants. Well, you know, the chances are you're going to be thinking of pink elephants. And if you put pink elephants into Google, guess what comes up? Pink elephants in the images. So it's so important to really set your focus to the things that you want rather than what you don't want, because then your internal representation is healthier, is better. It changes your state, so it puts you in a resourceful, a helpful state of mind, which will then affect your physiology and how your body reacts to that, and that affects your behavior. And obviously from there, your behavior will affect your everyday outcomes. So that's basically how your RAS works. And then the last part of the Mercedes model is all around the physiology. So it's how the body feels and how it's acting. So, if I'm sitting here right now with my head down and my shoulders down, I'm feeling, let's all do it now. Put your head down, slump your shoulders. It just doesn't feel great, is it? But one thing that you can do instantly to change that is stand up and raise your hands in the air, because that is an instant mood lift. And, think about gospel choirs. That's what they do to raise the tone and the energy in the room. And it's a really simple thing that you can do just to change how you feel instantly. So yeah, physiology, there's just, especially when it comes to, people going through cancer and treatment, sometimes it's not what they want to do is to move. But when I was having my treatment and chemo, I really struggled to get out of bed, because obviously it's not a very nice thing to go through. And I found my homeopath, and he's like, look, whatever you do, just try and get outside for 5 minutes. And I could always make 5 minutes. And it was like that, getting out my comfort zone of getting out of bed and just crossing the threshold of being outside. And as soon as I opened the front door, I was fine. And I just said to myself, I'm just going to do 5 minutes. But once I got outside, it was always 5 minutes. There's other things that you can do to affect your physiology as well. So I use music and podcasts to uplift me. I'm also surrounded by tons of posters. I didn't actually realize how many posters I surround myself with to instantly improve my mood. But we've got these kind of things around the house, being a fountain and not a drain, which is great for the 5 children that we have in the house, because they can be a bit draining because they're mostly all teenagers. I've got things like the Banksy thing. If you want to achieve greatness, stop asking for permission. So all these things act as triggers and anchors to get me into a better state of mind and how I feel in my body. Another great thing that I was talking to Rosie about earlier, actually, is the 28 for 2 method. I don't know if you've ever done this, but especially if you're at home and you're feeling a little bit sedentary, and there's lots of talk in the press at the moment about us sitting down too much, especially because we haven't got those water cooler kind of chats, or maybe you're not, getting out and doing as much stuff with the rain that we're experiencing recently in the UK. So what you do is you set your timer on your watch or your phone. Actually works for me best, because on my calendar I can just easily ignore it. You set it for every 28 minutes on the stopwatch, and then you move around for 2 minutes. And it doesn't matter what you do. You can go make a cup of tea, walk up and down the stairs, pop outside, whatever it is, but just move. And obviously you can do some movement exercise within that as well. And that's all about making you less chair-shaped, which will obviously make your body feel better and your mind feel better and your whole self better as a result. As I was saying before, getting outside is so important, even when it's raining. And I didn't really realise that this phrase, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing, actually originates from Scandinavia. And it's a Scandinavian mantra that parents use to get their children outside, because they firmly believe that regardless of the weather, their children need to get outside to balance their mental health and well-being. So that's where it comes from. I didn't know that until the other day. So, and especially if people are going through cancer and, it's the last thing they want to do is to move, really it's important, and this is an NLP technique, is to be able to reframe a situation to make it work to your advantage. So rather than thinking, oh, I'm just doing nothing and I should be doing this and I should be doing that and I can't do what I used to do and it's really frustrating, one of the great techniques that you can do is just to reframe that into, well, this is a great opportunity to rest, to heal, to restore and to recharge myself. So that's where the reframing technique comes in really helpful for that kind of thing as well. So let me just stop sharing there. So hopefully I'll kind of run through that quite quickly. You've got an intro to NLP and what NLP is, the power of language, a little bit about Scanxiety, and the Mercedes model that you can use with anything in your life, especially when it comes to cancer and Scanxiety.